run it on the ballot in November, and so all of you will be a part of this process. And so I am actually going to turn it over. Before I do that, we're going to do rounds of introductions on the phone, and we're going to do rounds of introductions in the room. Once we do those introductions, we'll ask you to state your name, your ward, and why you decided to join the All Americans for DC Statehood Working Group. We're going to do introductions for about 10 minutes, so if you can be brief and succinct, we'd love that. But we also want to hear your passion and energy, so we don't want to cut you off either. And so with that, we're going to start off with rounds of introductions. And for those who have mics in the room, if you could hold the button down as you introduce yourselves, that would be wonderful. Or we actually have a mic that I think we can pass around if there's a lot of static.
Can I do that in the room first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening, I'm Aurora Steinley. I currently work in the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Education. I live in Ward 5, and I previously worked at the national level for about 5 years before coming to the Passer administration.
Hi, my name is Laura Hartley. I live in Ward 1, and I joined this group because I work for IBEW in the headquarters in Chinatown, and we are covered in all of North America, including Puerto Rico and Panama, and we have a lot of representatives all over the states, and it would be a great opportunity to work with them and get statehood going.
Hi, my name is Tia Smart, and I'm with Senator Paul Strauss's office. I'm one of his policy interns. I'm actually from the state of Florida, so this is also a really interesting topic for me.
Hi, I'm Matt Levy. I'm ANC Commissioner 6A04, and I'm also a pediatrician, and I work at Georgetown. And I worked for Senator Conrad in the Senate Budget Committee about a year as a fellow.
Hello, I'm Karen Shulgit, Ward 6. I work with the DC Statehood delegation.
Hi, I'm Katrina Yuknovich. I'm a student at Georgetown University, Ward 2, and I direct our Federal Relations Office there. And basically, we've decided to take on DC statehood as an issue this year, especially because it's very relevant to many students on our campus.
Could you repeat your name again?
Katrina Yuknovich.
Please spell that last.
My last name?
Yes.
Well, my first name is weird too. My first name is Kotryna, and my last name is Jukneviciute. But I have business cards, so I can hand one to you afterwards.
My name is John Jernick. I live in Ward 2, and I am interested in bringing the constitutional rights award to all citizens to the people of DC.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike Heslin, sorry I'm a couple minutes late. What did I say? Ward 1 is where I live. Other things to look at. Why I support statehood? Because I think it's absurd that we have incomplete rights as citizens of the United States.
Marty Baldessari, Ward 1, I agree with that. I'm a 45-year resident of the city, and it's stuck in my craw all this time that we have been treated like colonials, so that's why I'm here.
Hi, my name is Stephen Kolb. We moved here 8.5 years ago from California. I didn't realize when we moved that I'd be giving up my citizenship. I'm also a documentary filmmaker, so I've decided that this is the most important subject I could be making a film about, building the 51st state. So I'm here. Please don't be intimidated by my camera, and I hope that the final cut really makes it have the kind of hit we want, but it's a work in progress, and you will be seeing pieces of this project as they appear on whocaresaboutdc.com. Whocaresaboutdc.com is the website, and then look at the link, State of New Columbia building the 51st state. I beg your pardon? Oh, thank you, I apologize. I live on Capitol Hill, Ward 6, right near Matt.
Hi, my name is Alan Karnofsky. I'm an Associate Director in the Mayor's Office of Talent and Appointments. I am soon to be a resident of the district. I currently live in Arlington, but I'm moving into the district soon. And I'm excited to make DC the first state, the 51st state.
Hi, my name is Roberta Downing, and I work in the Mayor's Office of Federal and Regional Affairs. I live in Eckington in Ward 5, and am passionate about statehood and in bringing democracy to all of us here?
Hi, my name is Arlen Harrell. I'm the Senior Associate Director in the Mayor's Office of Federal Regional Affairs, and I live in Ward 5, and I'm passionate about DC statehood because I come from Ohio, where every presidential election we get really excited because our vote counts, and I came here and I was really upset that it didn't, so that's what I want to work on.
All right, Eugene Kinlow, resident of Ward 8, native Washingtonian. They say you can't miss what you've never had, but boy, are they wrong. I know what my friends and colleagues have, and they're, having 2 senators and a member of Congress make a difference in this country, and we need to get it.
Hi, my name is Paul Strauss, and I heard this was a really good way to get into Steve's movie.
That's right. Several times.
So, in addition to that, I am the elected U.S. Senator, the senior one for the District of Columbia. And in that capacity, I'm one of the members of the new Columbia Statehood Commission, and I was excited to kick off this working group at our last meeting when we all kicked a week ago when we kicked these working groups off. We're off to a good start with this one because we've got chapters in Iowa, Nevada, activities going on in Hawaii and soon to be New Jersey, and we need a 50-state strategy if we're going to become the 51st state.
My name is Johnston Williams. I live in Ward 6, Southwest, DC. Why do I support statehood? It's the only way that I see that I can become a full U.S. citizen. I took the oath of office to be a U.S. citizen some 50 years ago, and I'm still waiting to exercise the full rights of a U.S. citizen. We have tried everything in this place, from home rule, every which idea, and finally I've come to the realization that the only way that I can become a full U.S. citizen is one of 2 things: either to move out to the District of Columbia, or for the District of Columbia to become a state within the United States. The first option for me is not an option. There's only one option, and that is to remain here and become a citizen of the 51st state of the Union.
My name is Tiara Jolly, and I'm a Ward 8 resident and a 6th-generation Washingtonian. I'm a 9th grade social studies teacher, and I also am the only teacher on the State Board of Education, where I also represent Ward 8. I believe in DC statehood because, to me, this is one of the last remaining, well, that's not phrased quite right, but to me this is a civil rights issue. In my academic work as a PhD candidate in history, I looked at the first platform of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and it contained voting representation for Washington, D.C. residents who were, at the time, overwhelmingly Black. So for me, this is a fulfillment of some of those early goals of early civil rights activists. And I'm also a lifelong resident. This needs to have happened 50 years ago.
So everybody on the phone, you heard the rounds of introductions in the room. We have a couple more.
Hi, I'm Judy Gold. I'm a resident of Ward 2 for about 15, 20 years, something like that. And I've been interested in statehood. And everything everybody says, it's a civil rights, it's an equal rights. I grew up in Connecticut and then Colorado, and it's just unacceptable that, we don't have the right to vote here. I was on the Philly-Cleveland meeting a couple days ago, and I happen to know a lot of people throughout the country who I want to kick in the whatever to have them help us get our statehood and voting rights, so I'm thrilled to be part of this.
Hi, my name. Hello, my name is Andrew Sun. I'm a resident of Ward 1. I've lived in the DC area for the last 7 years and lived in and out of DC for the past few. Obviously, mirror everybody's thoughts on why DC should be a state, and happy to work with everyone.
All right, we're going to move to the phone. We're about 8 minutes in.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is, as Desiree has indicated, it's Jocelyn Williams, otherwise known as Joss, J-O-S Williams. And for those who don't know me, I'm the former president of the Metropolitan Washington Council of the AFL-CIO, a position that I held for 34 years. I've been a resident of the District of Columbia since 1971. And I have the honor and pleasure of acting at least this evening as your co-chair, along with my other co-chair here. Does everybody have a copy of the agenda, including the folks on the phone? People on the phone have a copy of an agenda in front of them? If you don't, you just need to say, just simply say, I don't. Everybody doesn't have to speak up at the same time. Just simply say you don't have a copy. So silence, I presume, means consent?
I don't have a copy, but that's fine.
Okay, we can tell this as we go down, what we will try and do here. I'm just going to give my co-chair a chance. Now, is everybody in here introduce themselves? There are some people who came in while we were introducing ourselves. Did everybody get a chance to introduce themselves in the room? You have not. Can you just tell us who you are?
Sure, I'm happy to. Hi, Cato Tiller, Ward 4. I've lived in DC since 97, so 19 years. I grew up in the area too, but I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland. But I've lived in DC longer than I lived in Maryland. I've got 2 kids. They're 10 and 7, and so the idea of raising kids, somebody brought this up earlier, the idea of raising kids in a city where they don't have full rights is crazy. They don't understand it. I can't explain it to them in a way that seems acceptable at all. And so I just think that's unacceptable that we're still second-class citizens.
Thank you. Thank you. Everybody else? Okay.
My name is Kimmy Mitchell. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Student, but I'm currently an intern working for Senator Paul Strauss, and I think this is a very important issue because it relates to fundamental human rights. Yep.
And from what country are you?
From Seoul, South Korea.
Okay, you can be our ambassador. All right. All right. Welcome and thank you for joining us. All right. Oh. And for those who are on the phone, may I make a request that you mute your phone until you're ready to speak. If you don't, you're going to be getting some feedback from those of us who are here and those others who are on the phone. So let me request that you kind of mute your phone until you are asked to, until I seek to recognize you are my co-chair. And don't worry, so everybody will get a chance to really be heard.
Fold or something like that.
Yeah, there's no objection. We'll do that. Okay, so I can assume that the document accurately reflects what took place on May 12, 2016. Document called All Americans for DC Statehood Committee. You have it?
No.
Here's the thing. For those who don't have the document and I'm not seeing it or anything like that on the phone, yes, and it's on our website. And let me repeat.
Well, that's no, that's the email. The website is statehood.dc.gov.
Okay. Statehood at statehood.dc.gov. Right? All right. Statehood.dc.gov. Can go there and you can see the All-American for DC Statehood, which is basically the charge that is before this committee.
Whatever day, yesterday, the day before. One of the things that we talked about a lot was
how are we gonna phrase the ask, what we're gonna ask people to do. And we focused a lot on making sure that those of us who spoke, like the delegation, had the same message. But on the other page where it says the group must tailor the message to each state, understanding the demographics, I get that. But, and Sarah Strauss was there as well, you were there, yeah. But we have to be very careful that it doesn't, people don't say, wait a minute, you're saying this to one group and this to another group, because that's gonna hurt us. So it's 4C on the, you know, the notes from the Kellogg Center. And I think we have to be very, very careful that I get the tailoring because we're reaching out to different sorts of people, but that tailoring can't be too tailored. We have to have the exact same message no matter where we're going. Because otherwise, you know, we're gonna get caught up in, wait, you didn't say that to this group, you said it to that group.
Okay, let me just suggest, I'm gonna let you answer that, but I also just want to point out to people that there is a section here, which is item number, I think it's number 5, which is
Last meeting, and definitely came away feeling like our goals as a group were a little bit mushy. And I think that would merit some revisiting and some clarification by us as a group tonight.
All right. Why don't we just, it might make some sense, Tara, if we just kind of move into the All-American for DC Statehood. It seems to me that we can just move into that, and then we have kind of changed at least the agenda that I have in front of me. It's an old agenda, so the new one is number 4. The new number 4, so we're gonna combine 3 and 4. Okay? All right. I'm gonna ask Tara to take over. She is a teacher by profession, so I thought that she'd be the ideal person to keep this group in check as she does our students in her class.
I've got my stopwatch here, I'm ready to time us. So thank you so much for leading us into that. Before we get started with this, I just want to highlight 2 things. So we're moving in now to the initial Roman numeral 5, All Americans for DC Statehood Working Group Project. And we'll spend about 30 minutes on it. But to frame this, I wanted to highlight again this date of Thursday, June 9th. And that's because on this date, we'll be presenting, along with the other working groups, our recommendations to the Commission and not only the UDC. So I want to highlight that date because that moves into our objective for the next 30 minutes, which is that committee members will be able to identify 3 action items that we will work then in the next weeks to flesh out for that Thursday, June 9th date. Looking back at the notes from our last meeting, you can see that we've identified what appear to be top priorities of the working group. Those were to identify key states to target for future DC statehood chapters, to target organizations and groups that members of the working group can contact, to solicit support for DC statehood, to develop a toolkit for outreach to those organizations, and then the creation of a Facebook group or other social media outlets. So those are the 4 top priorities that we were able to identify from our notes. Now, before we start deciding on 3 action items that we'll proceed with as a group, I wanted to open it up to see if other people had other ideas for possible action items that we might undertake. So we're just throwing out ideas. This is yes and, not no because.
I'm sorry, I don't.
This is Michael Brown. I'd like to add funding to the agenda. I think we need to talk about it. I think it's time to talk about it.
Can you be a little bit more explicit about what you mean?
Well, I mean that I think the actions that we take are going to be somewhat dictated by the amount of money that's available to implement any strategy. Because a good idea with no funding is just that, it's a good idea. So I think we need an overall, to talk about having an overall parameter of what we think this should cost and what funds are available to pursue it.
I'd actually like to push that a little bit down the line, simply because right now we're identifying action items that we'll develop prototypes for as individual members of the working group. And then those are the prototypes that will either be accepted or rejected by the commission that we're presenting to on June 9th. So I think that's a conversation for a little later down, but I think that it is good to keep in our minds that we might not necessarily have the money to buy the moon and put a billboard on it.
Well, you know, if we don't have the money to do it, then we shouldn't pursue it to begin with. June 9th puts you 5 weeks before the start of the Republican convention and the Democratic convention, which run back to back. And if you're going to do something substantial, you're going to have, at those events, for example, you're going to have to be able to roll on June 9th. That's all.
Let's go ahead and see what some of our ideas then are, so that we can start to think as a group as well about what kind of money we might need to request to fund possible action.
Great idea.
Right, and I just wanted to add that funding and resources is a part of another committee. It is the advocacy committee, which is structured to engage with the business community to generate resources. The other committees are about processing ideas and action plans and moving us forward that way. The timeline that you highlighted, including the conventions, yes, it's going to happen fairly quickly, but the work of the commission and the committee goes beyond that, because there's a election in November. You know, the conventions are in June. This issue will be on the ballot in November, but it will be before the Board of Elections in September. So there's a longer timeline with which to raise resources, but there are things that we can do now. And our idea, and I don't think that we should pause our ideas just because we don't know what our budget looks like on these issues.
Well, that's not what I'm suggesting, but as a member.
Yes, we have, I'm sorry, I can't remember, William Katrina.
Granger? Okay, thank you. So, hi, Katrina Yukonovich again. I'm hoping that this falls under your action criteria, but something that we've talked a lot about, and something that we do a lot back at Georgetown University in federal relations, is going to the Hill and advocating. And given that we have students from all 50 states, we have constituents, obviously, from every single member's office. So something we would like to help do, and something we've had conversations about a lot, is going to these members and bringing their constituents to them and having their constituents express to them why DC statehood is important to them. And so I hope this falls under action, but that's a recommendation I would like to make, and something that I know that we're pursuing and trying to push on our own, so.
Thank you. I think that's a wonderful suggestion for a possible action item.
Hi, this is Caleb Tiller, Ward 4 again, as a reminder. I think this is a couple of questions that I was just layering here that may affect thinking about action items too. Is there a coordinating mechanism between the different committees? Because it strikes me that a lot of the things we'll be talking about are really connected very closely to what the communications committee is doing, what the advocacy committee is doing. So that's one question. And then the other, should we just take them one at a time, or should I?
Well, I mean, the answer to that is these are all committees of the commission, so between our office's staff and the mayor's office staff, they're being coordinated.
Okay.
And let me just add.
So I'm just thinking, for example.
Right, and let me just add to that probably beginning at the top of next week, we're going to schedule a call with the chairs and the co-chairs of all the committees and make sure they have received the minutes and conversations and discussion points from every group, so that every leader of the group knows exactly what's going on.
Okay, so just as an example, let's say we decide New Jersey is a major target state, we're just making that up, and we want to coordinate a massive social media campaign to get New Jerseyans, what are people from New Jersey called, to tweet at their Congress people and senators, right? If that's something we want to do, we've now touched on advocacy and communication, so I'm just throw that out there, that we need to think about how that would be coordinated. The other thing I would throw out is I just walked here, my office is 1750 Pennsylvania Avenue, just walking over here, I can't tell you how many groups I saw, large groups, tourist school groups, et cetera, from across the country. I think in some ways our best way to reach people is right here. So if we think about how we can leverage the fact that America is on the streets of our city for the weeks that we're talking about, and how we can actually reach those 50 states that are all here.
Thank you, Kenneth. Next, I think Alex Zakrowski. No,
I do.
Board again. I was at the meeting last week, and I agree that the notes capture what we discussed. But I think one thing we truly lacked when we had that meeting is a long-term vision of what we hope to accomplish, right? And so if the goal ultimately is to get congressional approval, then maybe we need to work backwards from there instead of I love the idea of having lots of different projects. It's really fantastic. But really, I think identifying a long-term goal and then working backwards is probably the most efficient use of our time.
So can I add to that? Matt Levy, Ward 6. I think we don't, I might suggest that we don't have a lot of time or a tremendous amount of resources. And I think we should start by looking at counting who in Congress would support this based on past experience. And then target those who are on the fence, that we can push us over enough votes so that we can actually get it passed through. I don't think we have the resources or the time to target all 50 states, and I think we really should be very, very succinct and targeted in who we reach out to. And I don't know who's been counting them, who sat down and counted the votes.
Okay. Let me just give you sort of a macro vision real quick. Obviously, we need congressional approval. This is a strategy designed to influence the next Congress. We do not know who is exactly going to be in the next Congress, but we are anticipating that there will be some change. Assuming it is the kind of transformative change that we're hoping, we want to be ready so that we don't miss an opportunity that a lot of us feel we missed in 2008 when we had a big transformation in the White House, Congress, Senate, etc. What we are trying to build on with this group, as opposed to the other groups, is a slightly more sustained effort. So some of the groups, the convention group is a short-term strategy dealing with the conventions that are coming up. Advocacy communication will be dealing with the referendum. And then what we're hoping to do with these groups is build on the establishment of successful groups that are advocating for DC statehood outside of the District of Columbia. So all of this is great, the communication, the tweet, but and taking advantage of the tourists, but we have the infrastructure to sort of do that now. What we want to do is find the resources to work with groups that are willing to do it. So for example, in New Jersey, it's not just necessarily family and friends. We have a member of the state legislature that's introducing a resolution. They are going to be sort of taking the lead. Where this has worked successfully is when you have leaders who are politically involved in specific states that are taking this on. So it worked well in Iowa, it's working in Nevada, it's going to work in a few other states. We may not get all 50 states, but where we can transition from a couple of friends and families who are supporting the issues and move them beyond writing their congressperson, but actually getting them to form a sustained and organized group, that's what, at least me as one of the commission members, are hoping to see out of here. The university chapters, for example, there's a nonprofit, Students for DC Statehood. They're organizing campus chapters. We would like to see some kind of ongoing structure in as many states as we can. And then obviously create some uniformity to these groups. So if we have labor for DC Statehood or students for DC Statehood, they're not necessarily geographically based, but allow a structure for all of these groups to coordinate with each other.
So that's to me, a really helpful frame. So I'm hearing brass tops and organized, as opposed to grassroots and scrappy.
Well, we're going to work with what we have in different places. So if all we get in one state is some campus chapter or a group of student activists, we're going to use that. If we have good integration within the state legislature, we're going to use that. But at some point, rather than have 50 individual strategies, we're going to try and create uniform models, uniform templates. If these groups have websites, we want to make sure the websites link to each other. We want to put these people in touch. If we've got some resolutions, we want to make sure that the resolution language is the same. But we do want to be strategic. We know that, for example, Congress is overturning our medical marijuana law, wins us points in some states because they see that as a violation of our sovereignty. We know that in some circles that's not a good issue to lead with. So that's why we're trying to target and tailor our message in different areas.
Just what Senator Strauss said, he's right And we already have a preliminary roadmap because this is an old fight. And we know, for example, we have 151 co-sponsors of the current legislation. So we have some idea who our friends are and where we need to work.
This is Yolanda Hawkins Bautista. Have we circulated that list? And also, yes, this is Yolanda Hawkins Bautista. I was asking that we circulate the list.
I don't know about the legal organization. This is Senator Brown.
A quickie, this is Gene Solon, Ward 6. Are not Maryland and Virginia prime targets?
They are, but for example, we know, and we have a lot of allies in Maryland and Virginia. And
just a little.
It is really, this is.
In the interest of time, I want to make sure that we get to hear as many voices as possible so that way we can put as many possible action items up on the list that we're compiling so that we can choose among them by the time our time for this meeting runs out at 7:15. Ms. Gold?
Thank you. I want to sort of back up. I think we need, I think it sounds funny, but all of these pieces are a combination that using the legislature, any kind of elected officials that hopefully are popular in their states, coordinating with the grassroots. And you know, when we go to the conventions, it isn't just a short term. It is getting the people, the delegates and their friends and stuff that are there. The idea there isn't to just get the platform, it's to get them to commit, to get the candidates that are running in their states to commit. So it's sort of, I call it infiltrating those campaigns. So, what we have as students for or whatever on campus, that's great. But in my opinion, we don't have the time, the money, or the resources to go in and set up DC statehood chapters. But we already have, whether it's legislators that are there or city council members that are there, but we already know we have campaigns in every state, for Congress, for state legislature, for whatever, that we can infiltrate, our folks, get them in there. Get them, make sure that they know that the key issue, there are a lot of, this is a huge election, obviously. We want that as part of their key factor, right in that campaign. And so when those folks are elected, it is part of their key issue, once it's been elected.
This is to be the trouble. I just want to chime in.
It could be that, we want evidence of progress in as many states as possible, or to your point earlier, in specific targeted states where we think will have the most influence possible. But maybe there are a number of different things that define success in a given state. Maybe it's a legislative action on the state level, or an endorsement of our cause by candidates for Congress, or it's a platform in state party, or an item in state party platforms. So I think that would be a great next step coming out of this meeting, would be to really have maybe a subgroup of us along those lines put together a proposal for what exactly success looks like on a state by state level, and potentially another group go through the process of prioritizing what are those states or constituencies that we really want to target, while a third group really focuses on that inventory of the connections and natural constituencies that we know we have.
And this is Yolanda Hawkins Bautista. I would ask the senator, since,
20 exactly what exactly we're gonna put in there as far as we got information. So once we have some more like committees and subcommittees and things from this group, this meeting will be making sure to have that. But that is the link to that for those who have electronic is attached to the agenda that was sent out. And also I think that to push the agenda along a little bit further, I think we were all saying the same thing. And I think that we've kind of identified at least part of the 3 pillars that we're talking about, or things that we're of our plan. I think that we've discussed a form of some type of groups, or working with groups that are already established in states and using those as advocates. We've also discussed direct congressional outreach through a grassroots level. So reaching out and finding using our networks that we have through different organizations that we may be a part of, and having those groups reach out to their members of Congress. And then the third piece, I think, which should be a standalone pillar, and this is maybe just my opinion, but the outreach to national organizations as a whole, and for things like resolutions on behalf of an organization. I think that is separate, but is very important as well. So I think modified in some fashion, that really sounds like the direction we're kind of going in as a group, but just saying it in different ways.
Kind of subcommittees that are taking some of these ideas forward. So, and kind of building on what you just said, I'm happy to, if I'm hearing correctly, that there is a subcommittee that is identifying groups to work with and putting together kind of a slate of what groups we think we could potentially work with throughout the country. I'm happy to be on that subcommittee.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
If there's a subcommittee that is identifying and targeting organizations, members groups that around the country that we could work with as potential allies, I'm happy to be part of that. Actually, start
Thank you.
brainstorming more soon.
So I actually wanted to build off what Arlen said because he took some of the words right out of my mouth. I was thinking, Andrew, about what you said about wanting a goal. And I think that it's correct that our goal is that we want a majority of representatives and senators to vote for DC statehood. But I was looking back again at the outline of the purpose of our committee, and what stood out to me is that it seems that the charge is to really do three things. To get the support of residents of other states, to secure endorsements from national organizations, and to engage members of Congress. So I'm gonna go on ahead and as a co-chair and make the executive decision.
No, it's not engage, it's get their support.
To add a fourth action item, because again, I think that Arlen is correct, that what it sounds like we're hearing is that there's a need for congressional outreach, so we need to identify what our action item will be in achieving that sub-goal. Reaching out to national organizations to find their support, find support from them, to engage pre-existing organizations like the statehood chapters that Senator Strauss has talked about, and then also just reaching regular residents appears to also be a charge of this community, so support of residents. So I think that with those three tasks boiled down that way, four, I'm not a math teacher, sorry. Which action items then that have been put together on our lists, targeting groups that already exist, residents of other states, congressional targeting, and then national organizations? Yes. So what action items that we've already identified do we think are the best match for each of these four charges?
To keep them informed, people informed, right?
So again, our four areas that we're trying to identify actions for are: what action item will we take to reach out to members of Congress? What action item will we take to reach out to gain the support of national organizations? What action item will we identify in engaging pre-existing statehood organizations and supporters? And what action item will we take to get the support of residents of other states? So grassroots, regular people outreach.
So if I could just to give an action item for congressional targeting, as somebody who's been on the Hill a lot recently, meeting with members of staff, members of Congress about this issue, absolutely calls and letters to members of Congress. There are a lot of members of Congress that don't necessarily stand one way or the other on the issue, but enough calls and enough letters will push them over. I think the saying is one letter equals, it represents the thoughts of about 10,000 constituents. So the more people that they get letters from or calls from, the more that they're inclined to speak on issues and to lean a certain way. Because to be honest, if you're a congressman member in Iowa and somebody's coming to your office and talking about statehood that lives in DC, that's not something that's a priority for you. But if you're getting letters from constituents in your district, that's going to make you want to turn your head and lean that direction.
Years ago, I followed Paul Strauss around. I was a member of a small group just following him from congressperson's office to congressperson's office. All day, all night, whatever. And at another meeting here, a lady picked up on the theme I used. I pointed to my white hair that used to be not so white and said, please do me a personal favor before I die. Let me be a citizen of the United States of America. Now, do we have time and do we have, can we prepare the logistics to do that same kind of touring of offices again?
Well,
we can, and we will, and we're gonna continue to do the efforts on the Hill, but that's something that, we get to do here because we're in DC. So what we're really, again, hoping for this particular committee is outside of the district organizing, and maybe just to give an example, if we can take one and pass them down, this is what worked in Iowa, and it was a multi-pronged strategy, and we picked Iowa simply because they were the first in the nation caucus, and we didn't really know how it would work. But because they had a caucus, they had an easy to organize structure, because they were all meeting at the precinct level. And it started off with a website, and we actually worked with there was some public affairs shows, and we had some commercials going, and all of a sudden, boom, it takes off, and this is now a group of people who live in Iowa, work in Iowa, have nothing to do with DC except that they believe in our cause, and they're out there, and they're autonomous, and they're self-contained, and they're up and running. And we replicated that a little bit in Nevada, and then we have some elected officials with built-in constituencies in Hawaii and New Jersey that are sort of starting, admittedly, some top-down stuff. But what we're trying to do is, if you know 3 people in the state, and you know 3 people in the state, let's get them together somewhere. They can form a X state or X group for a statehood, and because we live in this exciting century where you've got the webpage, you've got the social media, they don't need to be in the same city living room or town hall, we could put it together with some standardized stuff. So in Iowa, you know, literally these platform resolutions used to be 2008.
And excuse me, just.
Here on behalf, well, for myself as well, but also we have a secretary of DC Statehood within our federal relations office. Her name is Cheryl Liu, and she's been in contact with many of you. And she has been going to every single meeting, and she would like me to volunteer her on. She's currently home. She comes back June 1st to DC and will be working once again very diligently. So she would like me to put her name as a co-chair, and
For which building?
she did not tell me that part. So,
I'm meeting with her when she gets.
you are, okay, fantastic, yeah. So we can put her name down if that's all right with you. Okay, fantastic. And Senator Strauss knows her, so.
What was the name again? I'm sorry.
Cheryl Liu, so CHERYLLIU.
Anyone for resident outreach? Hi, Khadijah.
Hi, I am interested in working on the constituency pillar, which the question I was going to ask, but I didn't ask you really quickly, is if there is any toolkit or template that residents who live in the district but oftentimes receive visitors, people who come here from different states, that we can know an easy way to get them access to their senator or their congressman or congresswoman while they're here. Like, here's what you do to get a visitor in front of someone that you can go to and speak to while you're here visiting or here for whatever you're here for.
We don't currently have one, but it sounds like that might be one of the action items that your new subcommittee that you need to take.
What's her name?
Thanks.
Khadijah Tribble.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, just wanted to suggest there's a number of committees, and some of the committees are going to need some tools to perform their duties. One of the products that has just been generated today is similar to what Senator Strauss passed around, which is a resolution. If you're going out in the states and you're reaching out to national organizations, we'll probably need to get some organizations to sign up and to sign a resolution. And for individuals who are out in the states who are reaching out to members of Congress and such, I think we'll go ahead and help by creating a form letter that folk can send in to members of Congress elsewhere. So if there are other tools that you think you need for some of these work groups, don't be shy, let us know, and we'll make sure that that happens.
Sorry, and I just got a response from Cheryl. Would it be possible for her to co-chair the congressional outreach one, I believe? Fantastic, thank you. Oh, perfect, perfect.
I'm happy to assist Caleb on the organizational.
What's that?
Matt Levy.
Thank you, Matt.
I do have a question about the toolkit, the things we're gonna need, is that gonna be, most of that, is that gonna be designed by the staff? Or is that gonna be designed by us? Or are there templates? And that's the first half. And the second, is there somewhere like a website? So if we send constituents to say, go online, sign up for this, and you know, and do the resolution, sign it and send it in, because that's a very fast way to potentially create huge numbers of supporters.
So the answer to the first question is that any toolkit will be created by members of this committee. As to an online website or repository for collected resolutions of support, I think that's a staff question.
Right, and I think we'll try to, well, let me just answer the first question. We're already in the process with working with the Communications Committee in the process of creating, you know, the professional logo. I mean, we've got a logo here, but, you know, this is about making sure that we've got some standardized products so that it doesn't look so homemade. So we'll be trying to fashion, if there are ideas that you have for letters and concepts, please shoot them over to us so we can go ahead and share them with the Communications Committee and some of the vendors that they have so that we can go ahead and put a professional veneer on it. And let's see, what was the second question?
It's about, you could send, anybody we talk to, say, go online and click here, put your state in, your name, and say, I resolve to support the DC State.
I think that's a great idea there. We have a website right now. It's being enhanced, or perhaps we're having a new website that's being rebuilt over it or beside it. What's that timeline, Tomas? Do you know?
Moving next week, but the site is very good right now. We're looking to make it more grassroots oriented.
All right, so we'll see if we can add that function in.
I know the folks who work at change.org, so I'm happy to ask if they would do it for us for free in a way that we can get the names and email addresses too. Normally they charge to get the email addresses, but I'm happy to ask them.
Okay, great. But again, right now, we've got the statehood.dc.gov website, but the goal is soon enough, we'll have more localized websites, so if you live in a state where we have something going, we can begin to direct them to more site and issue-oriented specific sites that will then be linked.
And this is Desiree. I just want to weigh in on all your great ideas. I think a large part of this today too was to create some buckets, and that you all are driving this work and creating a strategy and a plan. So I heard some ideas around creating measurable goals, creating tangible products that will help do this work. I would just suggest writing all of them down. Like, anything goes right now, and at the end of the day, when we present this, when you all present this to the new Columbia Statehood Commission, at the end of the day, they'll have all those ideas and map them out as best as you can.
I think, I'm sorry, this is Arlen again. I think we have one more bucket.
It's like we read each other's minds. Is there anyone that was interested in taking on the chairpersonship of the existing statehood groups subcommittee?
Is that just for the handful of groups that exist, or is that a reaching out to
So it could also be existing statehood advocates and allies. So it could be individuals or groups. That's my sense based on our conversation. So identifying previous allies.
God, I'd like to be involved in that. This is Mike Heslin.
Can you please spell Heslin?
Yeah, Heslin.
I got it right.
Is that supporting new groups, new statehood groups, or is that a separate one?
This is identifying already existing groups and allies and reaching out to them.
Sorry, I might not be.
Does not reflect what you have in mind.
It does not. So I was thinking that was more of the state-by-state grass tops effort of finding influencers in each state through which we can hopefully exert indirect influence on those congresspersons that the Congressional Targeting Committee would be directly targeting.
Can you say that again, just so that I'm clear?
Yeah, this is the identifying, the strategy of who are the leaders we know across each state. How do we prioritize groups so that we can get either standing groups set up or have specific actions taken across each state.
This sounds different to me, but you're the chair, so now you're in charge.
Great, we'll see what happens.
Fantastic. So what that means is that now we have at least one chair on the existing groups, or reaching, the Mike has one group, we have that committee, that subcommittee. Reaching out to folks on the Hill, we have Cheryl Liu and Katrina J. Reaching out to residents of other states, we have the chair of that, it's Khadijah Tribble. And then outreach to pre-existing national organizations is Caleb Tiller and Matt Levy. Is there anyone else interested in taking on a chair role of a subcommittee? Yes, Laura.
The national organizations. I have ties to with AFL-CIO, but I work at IBW headquarters. And I've drafted a one-pager already, and I did talk about that on Tuesday. It's specific to my organization, and I would like to submit it to you guys for review because it is different than the resolution. It's just more, it's formal, but it's not in resolution form. But I think it would be very acceptable, and I think it's very easy to read.
Awesome. Okay, so with that in mind, because now it is 7:30, and I want to be as mindful of everyone's time as possible, because we do have this in the room, I will circulate sign-up sheets. Arlen, do you have ideas for how folks joining us on the phone might be able to sign up for particular committees?
Absolutely. If you don't have my email already, please feel free to email me with your committee that you'd like to join. Again, my email is arlen, ARLEN, Herrell, HERRELL, @dc.gov. And the committees, once again, are residents of other states, congressional targeting, national organizations outreach, and pre-existing groups targeting. State-by-state influencers targeting.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, this is Josh Williams again, and I think we can give some kudos to the co-chair here. I mean, she was fantastic. She brought her classroom knowledge to dealing with this tough crowd that you have here. For those of you on the phone, you could kind of be a little bit quiet. I just want to make sure that everybody is kind of clear and what was just discussed. And do you have any questions before I move on to the next part of the agenda? Any questions emanating from the discussion that we just had? Any lack of clarity? 4 committees, is it 4 committees? 4 groups. We have co-chairs now for all of the groups, and what we are soliciting now are members of those committees. And you're expected, for those in the room, before you leave here, to volunteer for one of these committees. For those of you out there, to email your desire to the staff. And once more, can you just give us the email address?
Email is arlen, ARLEN, Herrell, HERRELL, @dc.gov.
All right. And if perchance you develop some kind of amnesia and forget that you are supposed to volunteer for a committee, let me just indicate to you that one of the privileges given to co-chairs is to recruit individuals for those committees. So you got one of 2 choices. You can volunteer or you will be volunteered. That's your choice. And that segues what I want to talk about, which is a timeline for the work of these groups. And I'm going to ask staff if you might just assist us here in terms of this timeline that we have here before us, these timelines, and then how do you want the group here to merge into that and complete their work so that it meets the timeline. So in other words, what is the timeline of the subgroup so that we, the full body here, can deal with your recommendations.
Okay. I think that one necessary step is that for this working group to figure out the next time it meets, and then in between the time that this group meets, the sub work groups will get together, process, and have an opportunity to bring that in and up. So the question is, one of the questions, and I think that you may have, Mr. Co-Chair, a couple of suggested dates for the next time that the all 50 states groups meets. We know we've got a holiday coming up. So was there a suggestion? I think you got a couple dates.
Let me, if I can just take a look, when is the work of this committee supposed to be completed?
June 9th.
June 9th. Because of the awesome responsibility imposed upon the work of these subcommittees, we thought we'd give you some time, and I would recommend, based upon my consultation with my co-chair, is that we next convene, even though we have it May 31st to June 8th. I would suggest that if we're gonna really do some serious work, like you really need to take some time. So I would suggest that we as a group here convene on June the 1st, which is a Wednesday. Monday being the holiday, I thought that we would ignore the May 31st deadline and push it to June the 1st. Really want to make sure that this is not the only committee that you're staffing. So I just want to make sure that we really work with you to get the work done, because I'd like to believe that this is the most important committee that there is. And we all agree on that here, but I also know there are other committees that people are working with, and it's a heck of a job to coordinate the demands of all of these committees. So I want the co-chairs to be cognizant of that fact and work with the staff. Yes, sir.
May I ask a question? I'm just looking ahead at June 1st and thinking about the subcommittee or committee meetings between now and then. On June 1st, is the expectation or the thought that we will present back to this larger working group a series of ideas that
Yes,
would be
sir.
up for discussion at that point?
Yes, sir.
Leading to a June 9th.
Yes, you got it.
Thank you.
Yes.
But
Has everybody, go ahead.
Sorry, I wanted to chime in really quickly though. Our goal is that by June 9th, that whatever action items have been decided upon, first introduced by the subcommittees and then decided upon by the committee at large, then there will be some kind of prototype created for presentation at the Thursday, June 9th meeting.
I just have a quick clarification question, because this is a long-term committee. This is gonna be a longer process, so we're really setting it up to then implement it over, what's the sort of the timeline for the committee, early to have it like really rolling pretty hard, so to speak? Is it January, beginning of January?
No, we want this committee rolling hard now as part of all of the efforts. The fact that this one will be continuing in nature doesn't mean that we don't want you all going at the same breakneck pace that all of the other ones are. So obviously the convention outreach committee ends when the convention does, but all of that work really shifts back to this. So the delegates from the other states that we met at those conventions, we want to be able to feed them into this. So this is more of a marathon, but we still want you to sprint for now.
But it's essentially, you earlier used the first 100 days frame from 2008. What I've heard in other meetings is that that's still kind of that is the thinking again, or
Yes.
is the thinking now, I should say, for 2017.
2017.
So
yeah.
first 100 days starting what, January something. So really you're talking about kind of July-ish through kind of
Continuing all the way
Q1 and into
through.
Q2 even of 2017
Right.
for the time frame.
Congress comes back January 4th, 2017. The new president was sworn in January 20th, 2017. And so in an ideal world,
Three months
January
after that.
21st, whoever the president is and has a complete petition with support in Congress to move forward.
And we want to keep pushing through April, probably, hopefully not, but maybe.
We want to keep pushing until we are the 51st state. So if we could do that by April, that would be great, but if not, don't think you're taking the month of May off.
Okay.
You guys work.
Thank you.
Clear? Okay, so, okay, so we have wrap up. Under wrap up, can you tell us, just give us a summary of our accomplishments here?
Absolutely. So just to wrap up, we were able to got through our entire agenda. We've come up with our 4 subcommittees under our committee. We've created our co-chairs, and I will be, myself or other staff will be emailing around a list of all of the people who signed up online and in person for the different subcommittees, so that you can all connect with the chairs to schedule the next meeting in between now and our June 1st meeting. And we've confirmed that our next meeting will be June 1st at either 6 or 6:30 p.m. depending on the location. And once that location is locked down, we'll have that sent around to the entire group as well.
Okay, so that's on next meeting. We like to say in the labor movement, good of the order. Any final thoughts that anyone has? I hope you thought that this was a productive session. Did you? All right. Don't be modest. Give yourselves a hand. I also am encouraged. I've just been at this thing here for decades. Started off with home rule. It started off, for me, it started off with a fight to get rid of a congressman by the name of Macmillan. I was a much younger fellow then with far more hair. And that's what got me involved in this movement that started off as home rule, and it has progressed now and full blown to statehood. So for me, it's been one of those incremental steps that has brought me. I never thought that I would be at this particular point as enthusiastic as I am now. But as I said earlier, I've been waiting for this moment since the moment that I took my obligation to defend this country from all its enemies, whether they were real or imagined. I wasn't part of my oath about imagined enemies, but I think you get the drift. As part of that, this country offered me full citizenship in this land. I'm waiting for the U.S. to deliver on that, and their promise since then. So I hope, on a personal basis, it's really been a pleasure working with you guys, and I really, really expect that we'll be on the line together until our mission is accomplished. We made a good start. I want to thank you. I want to thank my co-chair for the fantastic job, and I want to thank the staff for the excellent job. And kudos to our 2 senators for the leadership that they have provided us so far, and for what they will be providing us as we go forward. Thank you very much, senators, and thanks everybody. And if there's nothing else to come before us, the meeting is adjourned until June the 1st, with the exception that the subcommittees will be meeting. Thank you.